Okay, going live. I'll come around here. Does that give you enough room? No?
Why is that at such a weird angle?
Because I'm not dead in front. If I were, I'd be where you need to be. Oh yeah, that helps.
It's odd, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the angle.
Why does it say finish there? Or you leave that till the end?
Yes, unless you've had enough already.
Okay. Ooh. Cup of tea before.
Have you got regular tea there?
No.
Oh, I was going to
horrible,
say.
actually.
It's what? It's horrible.
It's decaffeinated
Okay.
coffee
Oh.
with coconut.
Ooh.
It should be, but it isn't.
Oh.
I'll have to find something else. So we're live, aren't we?
We're live.
Oh,
Everyone's
right.
listening to our tea choices.
So how many minutes have we got?
We've got 10 seconds.
Oh, right. It doesn't have a clock on there.
No,
Okay.
just has a number of people, which is 130.
Right. Well, I'm going to step in and say good evening and thank you for joining us. Tonight, we've the DBA Halcyon Hymns painting is finished, and we've scanned it, and we've made a mock-up of an album cover. We haven't finalised it, so there might be changes, colour, position, etc. But this is the painting, and it's a kind of forest village, I guess, would be the best description of it, sitting on the edge of a pond or a lake. And the I'm bouncing around. There. And this is the painting that was to be the logo, to go in combination with the lettering to be the logo. So the album would be a combination of those two parts. And let's see if we can show you what that might look like. Okay. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So that's the kingfisher with the lettering. And that's one of several versions that we've tried, dropping the lettering into the painting. Come this way. There we go. We've moved it over a bit so that it has a little bit more space. And we'll post online when we've got a finished cover, but it will be soon. And I don't know if it's going to happen, but there are rumours that we might put on a version of it, we might put out a DVD with an edited version of these painting sessions. It can't be the complete thing because there's just simply too much time spent staring at the picture, but we will figure a way of editing it so it makes sense. So, did you say this was the 8th one we did?
I believe this is the 8th.
Good Lord. Okay. So, well, there you go. It will be out relatively soon, I think. The the painting's done. Mike's working on packaging the rest of it, and photographs and sleeve notes, etc. Mike Innes, who does a brilliant job. He did the colouring of the lettering and things like that. So that's, I guess, it's kind of a wonderful feeling to think, right, I've done it. I know I could work on it for a few more weeks, but in fact, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to touch it anymore. That might change in a year or two, but for now, it's finished.
Will you have just a square from that image, or will it extend round to the back of the album?
No, we'll have just a square from that image on the front, and somewhere inside probably we'll have the complete image, so you can see where it came from. Last time we were here last Wednesday, I did this large doodle, but it's still just a doodle. And I'm going to work on that a bit today. And I thought to myself, I know I'm going to be really organised and get all the paints. Not quite.
I'll zoom in on this sketch while we wait.
Sorry?
I'll zoom in on the sketch while we wait.
Aha.
So do people still buy CDs? This is more of a question to everyone, I suppose.
I don't know.
We'll find out.
I don't know. It does seem to be almost unnecessary to have an album cover, but thank goodness some people want it.
I mean, you'd still want it even if you were not having a physical copy of the music.
A lot of the vinyls we've done come with a code for downloading the digital version, so they do come with that option.
That's really cool.
Yes.
Lots of people here still buy CDs. That's good to know.
Good. Good. That means I can still get a functioning CD player. So I'm going to put that over here for now.
Only the ones with Roger Dean art on them.
Sensible people. So this is just a background. So I'm making sure it's dark enough, but I'm not trying to be any particular colour. In fact, I've not mixed this properly, so it'll have different greys and blues in it. And the one up here, of course, had greys and reds in it. Oh, there was something else. We'll talk about this at the end, but tonight's the night we start marketing the next course on this school, and that's going to be about drawing. When I was at college, when I was a student, I trained as a draftsman, basically. I learned to draw. Didn't do that much painting. So the first album covers I did were, the very first one was actually a painting, but a lot of the early ones, the best of the early ones, like Tales from Topographic Oceans and Relayer, going right forward to Alpha, the Aisha's second album, were essentially coloured drawings. And I have been asked a lot to talk about how they came about. So my plan is for this next course to put a lot more focus on the techniques I used back then, which would have been essentially drawing. So I'm going to talk a lot more about drawing and adding colour to those drawings. You can see that with now I'm painting, I pretty much work straight on the canvas, and not a lot of drawing involved prior to painting. But in the past, yeah, I pretty much finished it as a drawing. And in some cases, like one that first came to mind was the Virgin logo, that worked as a black and white drawing. It was used in colour and black and white.
Why did you choose that pinky background for this?
Very scientific. I have a box of paint that are nearly empty, and I just chose some colours pretty much at random from there.
Is that like the day where you haven't been shopping for ages and there's loads of leftovers in the fridge and you need to make them into some sort of meal?
How dare you?
Is that what you're saying?
Well, the painting equivalent, kind of, yeah. It's not critical to me to start. I guess I did feel like I would like it to be a warmer grey rather than the cooler, so there was some conscious decision making involved, but and I wanted it a bit darker than other paintings I'd done on this same theme. So I'm starting with a darker colour and at least at the top end a bit warmer. That might all be gone by the time the painting's finished though.
Have you ever received payment for your work other than money? Example given, an illustrator who worked for a trainer company and got paid in footwear. I think that's not okay. They paid him in their brand.
I don't finish work and not get paid. That's happened once or twice. I tend not to work that way now. I tend to work on the basis of, half a fee for starting and half for delivering. So it happens much less, but it has happened. Actually, I'm Richard Branson. When they started Virgin Records, they were really struggling to get off the ground, and he made a deal with me. He said he'd pay me in records, and it was a very smart move because I could never think of enough titles back then to take what they had agreed to pay me. So I never took the full amount of records, and it wasn't a big deal. It was like, I don't know, 15 for a logo or something like that.
Wow.
Not the logo. I forget what that was, but but I did 3 or 4. No, am I talking about? 3 or 4, maybe 10 or so fallen before. So the answer is yeah, it has happened. When he did the deal, I thought, yeah, okay, that sounds fun. Can't eat records though, so
That's true.
it has a certain limitation and value in it. But I would have never bought that many records. So if he paid me money, I would have never spent the money on records. I'd have, as I say, bought food. So it allowed me to be extravagant on that front without actually spending money. And seeing as that was pretty much the only option, yeah.
What project is this painting for?
It's for the... we've been talking for years about revisiting not just the close to the edge painting, but the whole narrative, because there was a chunk of a story that revolved round the close to the edge painting. And so my plan has been to... I'm working with Alistair Audsley, who's finishing the story, and I'm going to try and illustrate more elements of the story so that we can put it together as a package for the 50th anniversary of Close to the Edge, which is imminent. So I'm going to have to finish this pretty quick. So it's one of a number of paintings working on that close to the edge theme.
When you used to sketch everything out, did that mean there wasn't this kind of background? Because otherwise you'd paint over the sketch, or did you just do it in places?
Well, yes, no. When I did do the sketches, I didn't paint them out. I used them as a guide for painting, so there was a degree when you could see the pencil sketching. Relaya especially, because I used to joke and say it was painted with pencil and dirty water, because there was so little pigment in the paint. And you can see the pencil lines, yeah, a strong feature of the finished work.
Do you look back at early stuff like that and think, oh, I wish I could take a brush to that and edit it, or?
I was going to say not really, but the Relaya one did have a piece in it that bothered me, and that was that the snakes on the original were much more invented than I would have wanted. So when we came to do a limited edition print of Relaya, I specifically repainted the snakes, not as a real species, but based on a real species. So I took features from a rattlesnake and features from a fish and combined them. That's what I've often done, and that's what I did. So it's an accurate portrayal in different parts of different creatures.
What were the original snakes? Were they completely made up?
Not completely, but more than I wanted. I thought it was necessary for some reason that they should be made up. What I'm doing is I'm trying to make sure there isn't a consistent direction with the brush strokes that would make it look too regular. It looks a bit fiery, doesn't it?
Mm.
It's funny actually, because I've done it like that, because this afternoon I thought that would be a cool thing to do. But in actual fact, this morning I was planning to make it moonlit, so it was going to be much darker. And I don't know that I'm going to change this. I think I might just do a different painting. So a different version will be moonlit.
Regarding the 1990s trading cards, did you okay the changes to the yesterday's paintings?
God's teeth, I can't remember. It was 1993. Bloody hell. Yes. Those were the days.
Your hair is very pretty today.
Oh, well, thank you. You don't need to say these things, Christopher.
That was Debbie.
Oh, I see. Oh, I
We're getting some good hair
to
shots. It's just me, yep.
disconcert me. Okay. So, of course, theoretically one leaves this to dry, which I might not do. I might just work on it as is.
This might feed into what you were just saying, but do you instinctively know what general colour scheme a new piece will be, or is that product of much planning and decision making?
It's intuitive, and usually I usually do come up with a colour scheme, a palette, or whatever you'd like to call it, and I usually stick to it. In fact, very often it's the first thing. You know, I think of a colour scheme before I even think of the subject of the painting, but not in this case, and certainly not always. It varies, you know. If there's anything I could say about how these things come about, is that there is no fixed way. It varies. And, you know, for me, it's good fun. It's good fun letting things evolve.
Do you think anyone would buy a painting of just that? Because I do.
What, just that?
Yeah, I could look at that for ages.
Well, clearly, I don't know. With a very little bit more, it could, you know, if I was working like Turner worked,
Yeah.
which I love his work, by the way, he wouldn't leave it like this. He would put slightly more indication of what's going on than there is here. I have been very tempted to do a painting in a Turner-esque way, and that would be fun. So,
Well, we've got a few takers here who would also buy this.
well,
We've given the game away.
Yeah,
Only 10 minutes work. Now they'll know.
No, I'm going to ruin it by doing more work.
Uh-oh.
One of the things that was interesting, because last time I was asked if I had seen Niagara, is that when you look at a painting or photograph of a waterfall, you see a painting or a photograph of a waterfall, but when you're actually looking at a waterfall, it's very hard to see its shape. Your eye instinctively picks on a lump of water and follows it down, so it kind of mutates and changes as it goes down, but you're not looking at the shape of the waterfall. You're seeing that piece of water falling, and it appears to fall quite slowly, so it's quite interesting to watch. But it's also, or at least I found it, surprisingly difficult to not watch it. That required an effort of will to look at it overall.
What do you think of acrylic pour painting?
Acrylic what?
Pour painting, as in to pour liquid.
I don't know.
Hmm.
What is that?
I don't know. Let's ask Richard Arthur Christ to elaborate on what that is.
So I'm doing this very similar and very loose, like I did the sketch.
I'm going to move slightly further back. Really slowly so no one gets dizzy. You drew the sketch entirely from imagination, didn't you? From your mind.
Well, I don't know if I would say yes to that. I was saying more from memory than imagination, bit of both.
So why did you do the sketch from memory but then the painting from the sketch? Why not just do the painting from memory?
You mean, why did I do that sketch? Some of these difficult questions. Yeah.
Making you think today.
Yes. Well, the truth was, I was expecting to show the finished painting last week from Halcyon Hymns. And I really didn't know to the very last minute that Howard King, who were doing the photography, had a major issue with the camera. So the painting wasn't ready. So I thought, right, what to do? I'll start this one. And as drawing was on my mind, that's kind of where it came from. I was thinking drawing.
So in other words, if you'd felt like it, you could have gone straight to the painting?
Yeah.
Okay. So pouring. You thin out acrylic paint with Floetrol and pour the paint onto the canvas various different ways and manipulate the paint by tilting the canvas.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right.
So now you know. I'm guessing that's a no, you don't do that. Yes, that's not quite right. I do that. Yeah. If you look at paintings like Floating Jungle and Return to the Centre of the Earth, they were done that way. In a little bit in the background. Not the finished painting, but the background.
sort of setting up the background was done that way. Okay, so it's kind of beginning to look like the sketch. In actual fact, this is a sketch, even though it's done directly with paint. And I'll just keep adding detail.
What do you mean by that? It's a sketch in paint?
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm literally sketching in paint. I guess I use the word to describe a certain looseness of technique. It will become more disciplined later. At some point it will definitely become much more disciplined.
So would you say painting is more disciplined than sketching as a rule?
Yes. One of the beauties of sketching is the sort of speediness and fleetness of the line. And to get that in a finished piece is very difficult. And I use different techniques for doing that. Very often I'll do a painting that is incredibly loose and quick, maybe a few seconds work, but then I'll add the highlights very carefully so it looks very detailed, and in fact is very detailed, but the underpainting, which still takes up 60–70% of the real estate of the painting, is incredibly fast and loose. So it's that works for me because it achieves the result of looking disciplined, but it doesn't lose the energy and speed and the fun of that early work.
Jonathan Phillips says Turner would be done now.
Well, yes. If I practice for another 50 years, I'll match him, no doubt.
Have you ever used Legos to work out an architectural idea?
No, because Lego absolutely and profoundly prevents ideas. It guides you absolutely to a kind of discipline that I profoundly reject. It's fun for kids, but yeah. I suppose it's a generational thing. When I was a child, I did play with construction kits. I had a Meccano kit, which I loved. And when I was a student, I used it very often for building prototypes of mechanisms. It used to be a combination of things I could make on a lathe and so on with bits and pieces of Meccano. One of the things that I learned, a lesson that I did learn, is that for mechanisms to really work well, it's not a question of having all the bits in the right place. The precision makes a huge, huge difference to whether it functions properly. And Meccano was just never that precise. So you might make something correctly, but it not really work because it was all the pieces were not precisely held together. So one of the things about engineering, which is fascinating, is that if something is really well made and it's a good design to start with, it will work. If it's a good design but not well made, it won't work. And that's, that's an important aspect of it. Okay. What I'm doing here is I'm bringing the eye into this area. So you move into here, and I'm going to do more up here, like I did in the original pencil sketch. But that leaves you here for something surreptitiously to sneak into the painting. And that's the plan. How are we doing? Okay, we've got plenty of time.
What would your ideal home look like?
It would look like the curvilinear prototypes that I built. I spent a lot of time figuring out things. For example, how to make bookshelves that work perfectly in flowing curves, and they do, and it's easy if you give it 5 minutes thought. Yeah, yes, that's what it would look like.
Do you think if we'd had homes like that, since the dawn of time, that books would also be curved or circular?
No need, because you can store books in a curvy bookshelf as long as the ends are parallel. Then you don't distort the books. So instead of having flat dividers, you have wedge-shaped dividers, but it works perfectly well. I think I'll stop with that for now.
Is it strange that I can hear the sound of the waterfall from looking at the painting?
You must share the secret of what you smoke.
So you put something in this tea, Roger.
There you go. See, there had to be an answer. Okay. The area that's white, I'm just going to tweak it a little to remind myself of something, is
Have you noticed any different approaches to your work since doing the live sessions?
have I?
Yeah, has it changed anything you do?
I think when I was in my first term at art school, I noticed a big change in the way I worked from one intense weekend. But as time goes by, it takes longer for changes to come about. And changes do come about from not necessarily a change of mind about the subject matter, but just enjoying exploring what paint will do. And I did that when I was learning to draw. That was, for me, that was fascinating. And a surprise, because I didn't realise I didn't know how to. So it was, yeah, that was exciting and good fun.
How do we display paintings in your ideal home?
I'm always asked that, and the prototype has a surprising number of flat walls, because mirrors and things like that are on flat walls, so it does have flat walls. But I would, if I had my way, which I'm hoping to do, and actually get round to building a kind of visitor centre, I wouldn't try to hang the paintings on the wall. I would want to make a museum where they are suspended or freestanding within the space, and so that you're drawn into the centre of the space rather than to the edges, which is the normal place for paintings. And when I did the exhibition in the Isle of Man, did have paintings around the wall, but it had a lot of focus points in the central area, and for me that worked tremendously well. And so I used, or my plan would be to use three-dimensional art, like architectural models. Some you would need to walk all around, but some pieces, I've got a lot of models of things like windows and so on, I would want to be seen from one side only, effectively. So yeah, it would be, I don't doubt it will work. It's not something that's, I'm not staying up at night thinking, how the hell am I going to hang the pictures? I do in this place because all the walls slope, and again here it's big space, but not a lot of space to hang pictures.
Uh-oh, he's caught me moving the camera to show the space.
You weren't going to do that.
I'm not. The camera's just moving itself now.
They always do. Yes. One of the mysteries, one of life's mysteries. I'm going to stop on this because we've got only a few more minutes, because we're finishing at 7:45. It's 45 minutes now, these, so people can manage the downloading and everything better. Tonight we have launched the new course, the new the new art course, which will be, the last one we did was very much about painting in acrylic. This one is very much more focused on drawing and colouring the drawings, and you know, developing ideas. It's always going to be about ideas and creativity, always. So I'm going to keep hammering that point, but I am going to show how incredibly versatile a pencil can be, and how it can be the most expressive and the most detailed and informative tool. It's great. I have been asked many times, especially if I'm signing in public a fine art print, people will say, "Oh, can't you do that with a Sharpie?" And I say, well, you know, there are pencil drawings that are several thousand years old, and they look as crisp and bright as they ever did. But ink, there's very little ink that's not faded to some degree. So pencil is very durable, and I love it. I love the fluidity of it. I like working in pen, and we'll do a bit of that as well in this course. So from tonight onwards it's available, and we do our first session on the 28th, and I'm hoping this time, because Freya's not here, that Christabel will answer the questions and Matt will film it, which means I should have a camera on the drawing as well as on me talking. Hard luck.
Oh, the camera's being taken away from it. It's fine. Do I get to go in front of the camera?
No, there'll be two.
Oh, okay.
Do what you can.
Still waiting for that moment to shine.
There you go. But this time next week I'll be working on this and hoping that it'll look much more. Well, I guess to me at least it looks quite like it's supposed to look, but it'll look even more that way next week.
Will you be doing another course focused on paint again in the future?
Oh, undoubtedly. What's happening this time is that this was very much a response to people asking me to show how I did those early pieces. And I guess if somebody is an expert at watercolour, they'll think my way of working was wrong, possibly. I was taught to draw. I had a lot of tuition about that, and when we were taught to paint, we were taught to do it so that the end result looked like a photograph, or looked photographic, absolutely accurate, but the materials were limited. It was about design. So if you designed a chair, you know, and if it was made of elm, you had to learn what elm looked like and paint it to look like it was a photograph of elm, with shading and everything. So it was oddly disciplined, and in a way I've had to shake off that to some degree to be able to paint, but I'm going to revisit it because I did love doing it that way.
And where can people find out about the course? Where can people book and things?
It's on the website.
Great.
rogerdean.com.
Great.
Yes, I think it is there.
Or what if I'm a complete novice?
Well, what can I say? It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. In a way, it's easier to talk to someone with no preconceptions. So, your call on that. If you want to do it, I'll make sure that it works for you. It's, I get asked so often, but can you teach anyone to draw? And my stock answer, because I did think about it a lot once, but now I just go for what I worked out some time ago, is that it's about as hard or as easy as it is to teach someone to drive. Now, all kinds of organisations figure out how long it takes. The Army is a bit ruthless. The Army reckon an apt student will take 16 hours. Someone who's struggling will take 18 hours. And you can do that in one go, or you can spread it over half an hour a week over 6 months. Whatever, it always takes roughly the same amount of time. And drawing's very like that. If you want to put in 15 hours worth of drawing in one go, get a damn good book and get someone to feed you, and it will change. It will change what you do. Or if you want to spread it over a few weeks, it'll take a few weeks longer. It doesn't seem to matter too much how spread out it is. The number of actual hours are what count.
I'm inspired. I'm going to be drawing from behind the camera.
No, you're going to be paying attention. I'll hide all the sketchbooks. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us tonight, and I look forward to seeing you next week. And if you join the course, I look forward to that too. Thank you very much. And Christabel, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Roger. And thank you, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
night.